Nobody else arrive in the meeting, so I think we will make a start. If anybody is late coming to the session, I will let them in. So thank you to everybody for joining us today. Our roundtable today is led by Next Gen Media, and the session is Next Level Student Engagement. I'll shortly be handing over to the co-founder and chief operating officer of Next Gen Media, Andy Frankson, who'll be taking you through today's session. If anybody hadn't attended one of our roundtables before, quite standard. I think everyone's kind of used to using Teams now, but if everybody's able to just keep themselves on mute during the session whilst Andy is talking, there is an opportunity. If you want to raise your hand, that you can pop that up, and we'll kind of come to you with answer any questions that you may have. And obviously, if you've got questions to put to Andy, please do feel free to ask away. That's the whole purpose of the session. And yeah, I will leave it to Andy to take forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Sarah. It's the first time someone said my new official title, and it sounds
I double checked.
But...
I wanted to make sure I double checked beforehand.
I know I've always just been co-founder, and then that's it. But yeah, it sounded good. Thanks everyone for joining. We know firsthand how busy everyone is, so yeah, really appreciate you engaging with this, and yeah, hopefully you come away with something semi-useful. A huge thanks for Mandy as well, who's joined to help sort of share her perspective on our work and her opinion on how we've sort of helped out their halls. And yeah, just a general welcome to everyone. Thanks very much for joining, and I'm going to try and attempt to teach some very experienced accommodation people something about their students and their buildings. So wish me luck. I'm also aware that we might have already spoken or met at some of the previous CUBOs, which we've got lots out, Sarah, obviously. So today I'm going to try and share something maybe a little bit different, and that's my personal journey as an aspiring co-founder within the education sector. A little bit of an insight into what we do at Next Gen, just to give you some context, and then some practical tips around improving engagement at your accommodation or campuses, as well as a little bit of a Q&A with Mandy about her experiences and what her thoughts are. So I'll also leave some time for some questions at the end, and a link to follow up with me if you've got any other questions. But of course, that is optional. So you're thinking, but I promise you this is not Brad Pitt. It's actually myself, as I was very proud to finish my master's dissertation, but forgot to take photos on the day, so I decided to take it when I got back home. I actually enrolled on a brand new course to the UK curriculum that was called Team Entrepreneurship. It was a practical business management course. Some of you might have heard of it, but it basically it grades you on your practical learnings rather than exams. It is underpinned with coursework, but it's essentially a vocational business management course. And during these studies, it opened my eyes massively to a new way of learning and implementing new ideas. And during my time at uni, at UE in Bristol, I started a very early version of the business that I was going to talk about briefly, basically connecting local businesses with students in new ways. We experimented with lots of different services, one of which was a mobile billboard advertising, which was a really good idea until it was windy, and then it essentially turned into a sale, and then you have a very unhappy cyclist on your hands. So yeah, there was lots of learnings, lots of failings. As they say, FAIL is an acronym for first attempt in learning. I know it's cringy, but it sort of stuck with me. But towards the end of my degree, my overall experience at uni sort of confirmed two things. Education providers still hadn't quite worked out the best ways to connect with a youth audience on scale, especially in our halls. They were still using analog methods like notice boards and flyers. And even in my accommodation at French A campus, there was this little massive notice board buried in A4 posters with so many messages. You didn't know really where to start, or there was a half broken landscape TV in the corner decommissioned to just play radio. So looking back, I felt like my experience would have been a lot better if I was made aware of all the opportunities and support that were made available to me. So here at Next Gen, we're on a mission to make sure that students don't face that same problem. And then at the end of my uni time, I had a job opportunity abroad. So I pitched a very early version of this business to a classroom full of young budding entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, pickings were very slim and only 2 people raised their hands to take on that business, and 1 eventually dropped out. So the recruitment process was fairly straightforward. And that's when I met my co-founder, who I still work with today, and is our CEO. And he'd noticed the same issue. So he used that old university project as a way to earn his stripes. And when I came back, we began exploring things. We began exploring models and viable ways to fix this problem, this communication problem, on scale, and build a model that worked for you as the accommodation provider, but also us as a limited company, and also the students themselves. So the one thing we did notice is all these beautiful buildings. I mean, even Mandy mentioned, they've got these. They're knocking down some of their old accommodation, making way for new one, which is awesome. But from our experience, they were still using outdated methods to share really important messages. And we knew from our previous uni project, we knew how popular halls were with local businesses and national advertisers, but there was no official channel set up for this. I'm sure you have all had problems with flyering. That was the only real channel, and it wasn't trusted or given permission. So equally, if your residential teams needed to get mass messages out efficiently, there was no real way to do this. The current process was to email each site with what they wanted them to print, stick it on a notice board that no one really notices, like the one in front of you, and then do it all over again when something was misspelt or the rules changed, especially during the pandemic. So ultimately, we noticed that our hall still hadn't figured out the best way to engage students, but also had the limited resources to do so. You guys have to do so much, especially if you're part of like commercial teams. You've got so much to do. The notion of internal communication almost becomes a bit of a hot potato, and something would have been brought in years ago. No one knows who owns it or who manages it or who has the logins. It sort of has been given plasters over time, but we want to come in and really own that space and give the power back to the residential teams so they can share their messages really easily. So as I said, we took all the learnings from loads of failed ideas of colleges and university and implemented them into a new business. We even ticked off the classic working out of a shed. It's cliche again, but it's true, and called ourselves CEOs, Chief Everything Officers. Also ironic because Guy is now actually CEO. But at that time, we didn't work with any of you. We didn't work with Mandy. We didn't have any customers, really. We didn't have any employees like Tash, who's also on this call, who was our number 1 employee. The first to join, not the number 1 overall. I can't say that now. But we had the benefit of being able to laser focus on understanding our partners' pain points and really figuring out why you would say yes to a partner who you haven't worked with before, or you've done things a certain way for a certain amount of time. So we had to start with building a model that worked for everyone, but most importantly, you guys. And once we had that nailed down, we pulled up our socks and went around Bristol door knocking and got our first big break with the largest private provider, one of the largest private providers in the UK. And over the next years, scaled up to over 370 buildings in 65 towns and cities. And we always say, if I ever brought out a book, it would be called The Power of Naivety, because if we had any idea how complex it was going to be, then we most likely would never have started. And as I earn my stripes in my space as a co-founder, my top tip is always go into things a little bit naive. It can be such a powerful weapon, especially when starting a business or a new project or implementing a new idea. Embrace it, and by the time you notice how hard it actually is, you're probably in so deep anyway, you might as well carry on. So that's sort of one of my philosophy. The other name of the book I would call is, oh, that's never happened before, because we get that all the time, and I'm sure you guys do as well. So fast forward 4 years, and we're now a leading student engagement business who supply, manage, maintain digital screens specifically for university accommodation providers, free of charge. Basically, we exist to help you guys save time, effort, and most importantly, cost in creating and managing an effective digital signage network across your portfolio. It allows you to upload your messages in live time, whilst we provide positive external opportunities for your students, including discounts and important job opportunities. And on a personal note, I owe everything to my journey through education, whether that's my university, my halls, through my halls and my uni. That's where I met my co-founder. I never would have went to college without a certain teacher. I never would have done my masters without a certain teacher, and therefore wouldn't have met my co-founder. And I wouldn't be speaking with you today about this. So I'll always be grateful to this sector, and I'm really proud to be working on it with my team to try and improve it in our own little way. So our mission to inform, inspire and educate the next generation. Obviously, we recognise it's a really broad mission, but we are doing this in two ways. Number one, changing the way you guys think about internal comms, whether that's with us or with what you've already got. And really trying to make your messages noticeable. And then also we're providing positive new opportunities from organisations who have trusted access via a scale platform to halls across the country. And I think when people first hear of us, they think it's just burgers and shoes, but we have a huge focus on employability, charities, summer activities, and lots of non-commercial content throughout the year to make sure it's relevant and topical and always up to date. For example, Lunar New Year started today, so we've put up some content about that. So on to a little bit of insight. So from one of our loyal student ambassadors called Cara, who is currently living at UE in Bristol. Believe it or not, she is not a paid actor. However, this might seem, we just asked her questions about the content on the screens and her general uni life. And we wanted to share her thoughts with you. So this might open up. Can you hear that?
No, we can't hear anything, Andy.
Okay.
Bear with.
This is the one thing we probably should have tested, Sarah.
It is. Bear with me.
That's all right. It's coming through my headphones. Maybe I'll take my headphones out. It has got subtitles, which is a bit of a backup. But let's try one thing and then might take my headphones.
Hang on. Try it again.
Okay.
Awareness of events, not only which your
Working
combination hold.
Awesome.
But Cara, I'm a first year. Hey, I'm Cara. I'm a first year student at UE Bristol, and I live on campus. Why I think the next gen media screens are really good is because it promotes awareness of events, not only which your accommodation hold, but also which the university have going on. So, for example, I recently went to a trip to the aquarium, which I saw on the screen on my way back from my lecture to my flat, which I wouldn't have noticed otherwise, because it's really easy for emails to get lost amongst the chaos of a university life. So another reason I think it's really good is because not only does it promote brands which I wasn't aware of before university, but it promotes offers and new products and deals which I would have missed otherwise. So I think that's really helpful for a university student. Hey, I'm Cara. I'm a first year student at UE Bristol.
That's not that one. So yeah, that was Cara. Is essentially part of our student ambassador program, but also part of our student panel. And to give you a little bit more context, Cara is part of this community as well. It's growing to about 2,500 young people studying at unis and colleges, and essentially through this platform we collect live insights from everything going on in the student world, so campaigns, categories, spending habits, preferences, and the general what's what in the student life today, and then we action that within our business, and it actually drives quite a lot of decisions. I mean, I speak to a lot of the residential teams, and they have similar pilot groups. It works in exactly the same way about how they gather information on what their students want. We just do it on scale, and it drives a lot of the key sales activity and brainstorming within our business. So although it's been maybe since I've been a student now, this is certainly how we keep a strong student voice within our business. And we'll always strive to keep students at the heart of everything we do. Ultimately, we position ourselves as a student engagement business. And if we don't know what's going on in the student world, then, I don't think we can make that claim. So we also provide paid work opportunities for them to work with us, as well as real world experience with brands as well. So We are saluting traditional notice boards for their service, but it's time for radical change when it comes to internal comms. So over 1,000 students here, we asked them about methods of messaging, especially within their halls. And as you can see, almost 3/4 wanted their halls to update the way that they shared their messages. Almost 2/3 are more willing to engage with digital posters than a printed flyer. And over 80% wanted to show key info about stuff that's happening inside their halls, but also what's going on outside. Because essentially they have chosen to live with you in that city. They want to know what that city has to offer, as well as, you know, what happens if I lose my key card, for example. So we'll move on to the sort of mixture of internal, external messages, but this was just a little bit of research to support it. And this is a little bit more of a broader insight that sort of almost 3/4 of this audience prefer short form videos. You know, attention spans are very low. I think every message has to compete for seconds of attention, and people lose interest very quickly. At most, you get a maximum of 8 seconds, and on social media, it's probably less than 5. You know, count the next time you're scrolling, and it will most likely be 3 to 5 seconds at the most. And the best way to break through is just by short form, impactful, full motion videos, no more than 8 seconds long. And this is critical for our business and how this audience digests information. And that's why it's replicated across the entire network. There are also some platforms that can help you with this. You know, I know that some of the residential teams don't have the resource to you know, create new videos every day. There's a tool called Video Gen, which is not our sister company, although it is a good business. And you essentially type in what you want the video to look like, and it will spit out a 10-second video for you with subtitles, and it can translate if you're in Wales, etc. So there's loads of free tools out there. I can do another session on AI another time. I've got a little bit about that later on, but there are loads of tools that can help, but completely appreciate that world can be overwhelming. So I'm going to give a couple of tips about where to start if you wanted to explore it. I thought it'd be useful to share an example of full content reel. I think what we do is very visual. It's essentially a 90-second loop with a mix of events happening in the building, rebookers info, charity partner messages. We work with some of the student unions that you guys work with as well, who want to share their messages on there as well. All sorts of categories ranging from travel discounts. Obviously, we did one with the Traitors really recently. And we also have a slot for Gen Z news, which I can touch on a little bit later. But this really is so important, is a mix of internal and external messages. And it's so critical for this type of media because they complement each other in this way, especially if it's you guys uploading it. That's a really endorsed seal of approval, which definitely helps it. And if it's too much internal messages, people switch off, find it boring. If it's too much external advertising, then people ignore it and it becomes like wallpaper. So you need a mixture of the both, whether that's on, you know, signage units you've already got, but it's certainly a formula that we use and will always use. And here's just examples of some of the categories we work with. So real mix of tech, discounts, banking, travel, entertainment. There's a massive range of categories. And I think one of the stigmas that I also have to address is when people, you know, understand that it's free, but it comes with advertising. You know, historically ads are annoying. Like, you know, I get rid of them. They're designed to get your attention, disrupt your scroll, or interrupt your Netflix binge. But a platform like this is non-invasive. It's always student focused and relevant to where people live. And like I said earlier, it's endorsed with your messages as well, which definitely helps build trust. And this is just some of the other categories that we work with. So we have a direct team on employer brands and find out who's hiring and who's not in the student world, and we approach them. We also work with lots of mental health and wellbeing companies and also charities as well, like British Heart Foundation, which I know a lot of you are partnered with as well. So we're always happy to support that stuff. This is a semi-new partnership, actually. It was towards the end of last year we worked with these guys, but essentially they're the BBC News, but for Gen Z, where they share news updates on certain categories that the partner is happy with. So whether that's culture, entertainment, celebrity, you know, whatever it might be, It keeps things moving, keeps things relevant, and yeah, I think it's really useful to have something like that to complement the rest of the content, because it gets conversation starting. And yeah, it's something we're quite excited about to grow with them this year. So the Uni of Manchester, who are kindly on this call, thought we met them at a conference previously, and they wanted new ways to enhance student engagement with their residents, following feedback that emails maybe were overlooked, as Cara sort of mentioned, and maybe notice boards failed to capture their interests. Uni of Manchester is a beast. They've got loads of buildings, loads of residents, like an awesome culture, but they do have some more historical buildings, so we really wanted to modernize it and work with them to do that. So obviously I'll come on to Mandy in a second, but they use them at the moment to share a variety of updates, from on-site events, reminders about essential residential info, and lots of other stuff across most of their big halls now at the moment. So it's probably enough of me talking for now. I'm going to bring in Mandy and I just ask some questions about her world and her residential team. And yeah, if that's all right with you, Mandy, do we still have you?
You do. I'm here.
Awesome. Thanks, Mandy. It's actually kind of nice to do a bit of Q&A halfway through, because yeah, it definitely breaks it up a little bit. So I guess my first question is...
That's an old photo.
No. We got whichever one we could, but I think it's great. So yeah, if you could tell us a little bit about your role at the Uni of Manchester.
Yeah, sure. I think I've had probably one of the largest titles ever. So I'm the head of accommodation administration and Res Life services here in Manchester. Originally just started off as the head of accommodation administration nearly 10 years ago. I joined the institution, looking after all the reception areas, the accommodation office. So as Andy's already said, we're quite a big beast. We've got 3 residential campuses across Manchester, circa 8,500 students, both in University of Manchester halls and the halls that we leased off some of the bigger providers. So the receptions at the time managed payments, first protocol for students and parents, managing keys, which is a big nightmare. Another big nightmare is, of course, everyone in residences now managing posts for that number of students. In 2016, I was asked by the director to take on the implementation of Res Life across all our halls. Following a consultation, we used to have wardens who were full-time members of staff, and then undertook a part-time role in halls, and the aim was to provide a full-time Res Life service with people who concentrated 100% of their working time in halls and with our students. So things have continually moved on since then. We started off with 4 full-time staff in 2016. I've now got 20 full-time staff members and 150 part-time Res Life advisors who all live in the halls and support our students.
Thanks, Mandy. Yeah, it certainly is a mouthful, but it's cool to see how much it's grown during your tenure. I'd love to know, maybe just rewinding back to 2016, if you needed to send messages out quickly, what would you have done at the time?
I think, like a lot of people, it would go out through our accommodation management system. So we use Kinetics. It was just email after email after email. And I think, as you said earlier on, it just becomes boring and people don't read it, and then they start to miss the really important messages.
Yeah, and I think we would never want to replace emails. Stuff does have to be in writing, but yeah, if it's the only channel, eventually people are going to switch off. So, and what are some of the messages that Res Life sort of promote at the moment?
I would just say it's not just Res Life, it's the whole of the residential services. Yeah, so we've been asked to put messages up from other areas of the university. Res Life use them obviously for events, and the accommodation team use them for, don't forget to fill out your inventories, where to buy new keys. We use it for Part Life, which is a big festival here in Manchester. So we do a big Part Life event and we advertise that through it. I would say it's really easy to use, but I'm going to sound really false here because I don't actually put the messaging up, and I can see Emma, who's on the
Emma's
screen.
here, I think.
Emma's here as well. So Emma is our residences comms and marketing officer, and she really takes the lead with the screens for us. So yeah, we put one of the big things we were asked to put up was the local public health realised there was an increase in numbers for people with measles in the local area, so needed something to go out quite quick. So that was put up, and so we'll put external messaging up as well from public health if needs be.
Thanks, Mandy. Yeah, I had a very well timed picture of that campaign there. And yeah, Emma is definitely our internal champion. So she's been awesome. And I guess you mentioned Park Life, and I know that there are a few others as well. But are there any other sort of campaigns that have stuck out to you that maybe have aligned with some of the internal messaging? I know Park Life's a really good example. Are there any others that you can think of?
I think they all work particularly well. The traitors one, certainly, over the last couple of weeks or so, has been quite a big talking point between staff and students. And the Park Life stuff that's up there at the moment, that's really, it's eye-catching. I've just been down to our cafe down here, and there's the students looking at it and making note in the diary. So that's really eye-catching. I think that's a really good one.
Yeah, and that's exactly where we want to get to. I think luckily with Manchester, there is always interest in Manchester. So we are quite lucky in that respect. But and have you do you sort of foresee any trends in your world shaping how sort of your team or your department will engage with students? Maybe that's with them now or a few years down the line.
I think we're constantly looking. I mean, speaking as someone who's got an 18-year-old at home, any sort of engagement, is better than none or a grunt from the bedroom. Anything which is short, as you said, and impactful. If I were to say to my son, go and look up something on Google, I kind of get this expression as if to say sorry. But he's on Insta, he's on TikTok. As you say, the attention span's really, really short. But I know from students saying to me, well, I didn't see that email, I didn't see that message, I didn't see the other. That's not the way that they're communicating. So I think we need to move with the times, and that short, sharp, there's a message, they are watching it, they are taking it in. I think as well, things with the QR codes on the bottom. I know a lot of the messaging we've got at the minute has QR codes on the bottom, so it gives people the opportunity. You can read the headline bit, but then you can go and find out more information if you want to.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to know we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're essentially just trying to put massive mobile phones in places where they're important. And you're right, this is how they take in information. Because there's so many businesses and organizations wanting their piece of meat for attention. So yeah, we're trying to put it in a simple format for people that they've essentially been brought up by, especially as newer generations of students enter the halls. That's only going to get more comfortable as the years go by. So and just out of interest, maybe from a headline perspective, like how do you see the role of Res Life evolving to meet those changing needs of students?
I think Res Life is different in every institution across the UK. Everyone has a different, what does Res Life look like? I think, one thing I always say, that university isn't just about getting a degree and the academic side of life. We're bringing in, as you say, generation after generation of young people into our halls. It's first time they'll have been away from home, probably for the first time. They're going to be away from family and friends that they've known forever. Our Res Life team all live on site. They're on duty 365 days a year. We currently do one-to-ones with all of our residents. So when you consider that's, 8,500, get a regular one-to-one with a Res Life advisor just to check on them and make sure they're okay. And it isn't just about events. We do have the sad aspects of people being lonely, suicidal, and we've got to just keep moving with the needs of what the students want. So we never sit still, to be honest.
Yeah, you're completely right. I think when people think Res Life, they just think it's they do pizza parties and stuff. Actually, they handle that full spectrum of emotion of students when they're studying. And I agree with you with universities as well. I think there's some fields that you need to know that knowledge, like legal, and medicine, etc. But I'm convinced it's just so you can finish something. You prove to the world that you're committed and you can finish something. So thank you very much, Mandy. That's really, really useful.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. So this is maybe for a more of a general marketing perspective that you could probably forward on to someone in your teams, or some of you might do it in-house. So I wanted to drop this in here because last week the UK launched the AI Opportunities Action Plan, which is fairly well timed for this, to basically boost AI innovation, invest in supercomputing facilities, create data centers, support research, etc., with the aim to be an AI leader while driving economic growth and job creation, which is quite a mouthful. Essentially, it's the government's commitment to utilizing AI within the public sector to improve how it functions. So I wanted to just share a couple that are out there. I know that it is a very overwhelming world, but there are a few here that are really easy. ChatGPT is actually not in here, but that is a really easy starting point. It's very conversational. You can feed it information about what your tone of voice is, what your values are, and basically train it to be a virtual member of your team. It's something we've got within our business. And I use it daily. I even use it in my personal life, mapping out my shopping list and cross-referencing where the ingredients are in the store. Believe it or not, I have a life. But my point is the applications are super wide. There's also chatbots and stuff that you can have. I know a lot of you have got apps now, which is great. And this stuff can be built in, but you can have a really, really well-trained FAQs section of your apps or websites, and you see some businesses that do it really well and others don't. It can be very frustrating because you just want to speak to a human, but with the advancements of stuff like this, you can really train it really well. You can feed it all of your brand guidelines, all of how you'd want someone to behave, and it can perform that for you. There's also a lot of analytics tools. So someone like Sprout Social, these are all free tools, by the way. That's sort of the point. But you can try this out without having to ask for budget. And they basically track all of your best methods. So, you could connect intranets to it, emails, all of that stuff, and it will analyze what's the best engagement platform, what's the best time to do it, and what is the best type of content, whether that's images or videos. And then the other one is Canva. So there's an AI plug that plugs into that. I know a lot of people use it, including us. And there's something called Dolly, I think. And this is a widget that instead of scrolling through the archive of a particular picture you want, you can just type in, I don't know, like a horse with a sombrero hat, for example, and it will give you that. So you're not spending ages trying to find the right picture or video. And that's something that's really useful as well. So this is probably just a bit of a mixture about who we're lucky to work with. Obviously, we have Manchester on there. So on the left is a lot of the HE partners that we work with. We're now growing within FE. We're trying to bring that university experience back down to colleges. And we think it would be a really good network to help feed the uni network as well, because a lot of college students obviously thinking about applying for university. So that's a big focus of ours at the moment. And that's why there's some colleges on there, which are also open to CUBO. So it'd be great to see if any of them join, and I'm happy to be an advocate for that because I know they're always looking for new ways to engage. And then on the right hand side is a mix of some of the national brands that we work with, so Department for Education, travel, local police forces, charities, etc. So a real mix of companies that we're lucky to call partners. And I believe that's everything. So thanks very much for joining. My door is always open if you have any questions, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andy. That was really, really interesting. And I hope members that have joined us today are able to take some sort of learnings away to implement in the workplace. I don't know, before we finish the call, if anybody has got any questions that they want to put forward to Andy or Mandy, I guess, in terms of kind of how things have gone at Manchester as well. We have got, so see, got a bit of time if anybody has got any questions.
That's fine. I never normally take the full hour. Always give people the gift of time.
Absolutely, gift of time's always well appreciated. So as we said at the start of the call, we have recorded today's session. So if anybody does want to go back and revisit anything from today, feel free to do so. That will be in the CUBO member knowledge area shortly. Oh, Carl's just put his hand up. I'll let you come in there, Carl. You're muted. I think you're on mute there, Carl. No, you're not. Can't hear you.
We could see him at the start and hear him.
Yeah.
Maybe not anymore.
I can see you, but I can't hear you. Sorry, Carl.
That's right. Whilst we're waiting for Carl, I think I just want to make it really clear that, you know, it's not just about working with us. You know, a lot of you already have infrastructure in place and that can be transformed. Doesn't have to be our screens, but I'm always happy to help consult and transform what you've already got. You know, we've carved a bit of a niche for ourselves in this space. So yeah, we really don't want to use this as a, you know, a place for a hard sell. We really want to help improve what you've already got. And yeah, happy to help with that at a later date.
I don't know if you want to try again, Carl.
I heard a syllable.
I heard some noise. Yeah.
Type it in the chat, maybe.
He's put his question in the chat as well.
Just go back in.
I might.
But are you able to gauge engagement with the screens? Do you do tracked QR codes, or is engagement more monitored by the end results? I know Mandy's said we've got, yeah. Yeah,
I guess I can be aimed at me, I guess. Yeah, there's a range of ways you can do it. Obviously, QR codes are a big one. You just have to make sure that it's on there long enough for people to scan, and it's an easy height for them to do that. We also measure footfall, so we've got like an audience measurement built into the screens, so we can tell. It's anonymized. It's no data is collected. It's just a number basically about how many people walk past within a 5-meter radius, so we can know how busy it is in front of the screens on an hourly basis. But a lot of the tracking is down to the content creator, I guess, about how they want to do it. This platform is brilliant for eyeballs and really top of the funnel, starting that customer journey. It's then down to the other elements of that funnel that are more conversion. But, you know, we were never going to put cameras on the screens. We're never going to track that because, yeah, it just is morally not right. So those are the metrics that we use. Other examples are if we worked with a local store, they could check uplift, and same with websites as well. They can see how much more traffic has come through whilst the advertising is in place. So yeah, there's a few methods, but it's not going to convert someone on the spot there and then. It's very much a medium that trickles through to people over a short period of time. That's why it's perfect within halls, because people live there, people have to go in and out all the time, but it never converts people on the spot. I don't know whether you've been driving and you've seen a QR code on the billboard on the side of the road. Can guarantee you might be quick, but I doubt you would have scanned that. So this medium is hit and miss, but if you've got lots of other channels in place to support it, it's a really powerful medium to get people's attention and, yeah, like I said, get eyeballs on what you want.
That's great.
That's all.
Fantastic.
No worries. My pleasure.
Any other questions before we wrap up for today? Oh, yeah, Sarah.
Hi, sorry to just jump in at the end. Hiya. The point I think you were making about, so I think we've looked at a solution like this before for our digital signage. And one of the reasons we didn't go down this route is because of the advertising. Like, our senior management felt quite firmly that we didn't want external advertising on the screens. And I understand the points that you were making earlier about how relevant it is to students and stuff. But when you were saying about if it's just the internal messaging that people find it boring and switch off, I wondered if there was anything that backs that up. I know it's obviously in terms of tracking it's difficult, but I think that would be quite useful as an argument, I feel.
We've got lots on that. You know, we speak to students all the time. I was a student myself, so we've got lots of data. There's all the stuff points out there towards internal and external messages. That's how a lot of the social media formulas are so popular. So the internal messages are, you know, your friends or, you know, events that are local to you that make sense. And then the external stuff is things you might like. You know, it's a really powerful formula that's been replicated everywhere. So we have lots of research on sort of how internal messages are, sorry, that's quite loud. We've got lots of stuff on why internal messages are not seen anymore. I'm happy to share it with you after this. That's fine.
Thank you. Thanks.
That's right. No worries.
Mandy's got a hand up as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, one of the things that was raised with us about sort of external companies coming in, we're the division of residences and sport, and our director is very much because we have a sport package based into our rents and things like that. She didn't want any gyms, for example, being advertised on there and anything, and NextGen work with you on that. So you can veto stuff as well if there's anything in particular that's a problem, and that works really well for us. We also limit any alcohol advertising and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we had to start with a model that built trust from day one. So yeah, we have a few things in place to make sure that there's never a senior leadership person that sees an ad and is running out the building furious. We basically operate a 3-step process. So we have a common sense policy. Obviously, we know what's suitable for students and what not. Obviously, vaping, gambling, politics, all of that stuff, we instantly just don't work with. And then, as Mandy mentioned, you have a veto list from the start. So you tell us what you're happy with, what you're not happy with. Yeah, for example, we can't do gyms at Uni Manchester, and that's absolutely fine. We've known that from the start. There are plenty of other categories and opportunities to go after. And then the third one is we send the final piece of artwork to the designated person in the residential team, and they approve it as well. So yeah, there's lots of stuff in place. But I really do get the stigma with external advertising. But I think if you just take the time to see that it's always relevant to students and it's going to help your messages get noticed as well. It's a fairly compelling argument, but yeah, I'm happy to back it up with some stats and some research afterwards.
Fantastic.
All good.
Just one final kind of round robin. If anybody else got any questions for Andy at all? Tumbleweed, gone silent. So as I was saying, this will be available to view in a couple of hours on the CUBO Knowledge Hub if anybody wants to go back and revisit anything. I know Andy's contact details were up on the screen just a moment ago. If anybody does want to reach out and hasn't managed to get hold of those details during the call today, do feel free to reach out to the CUBO team and would be more than happy to put you in touch with them. And on that note, I will stop the recording and finish the session for today. Thank you so much for everybody who's taken part.